Hi, we are reading the story. We're on page 98. Joshua, let me get comfortable. Is this comfortable? There we go. Okay, Joshua and the Israelites had just defeated the 5 kings at Makkedah. And yeah, that's where we were. Okay, so Joshua subdued the whole region, including the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes, together with all their kings, and he left no survivors. Joshua totally destroyed all who breathed. Yikes. Just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua subdued them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the whole region of Goshen to Gibeon. This is a big region. All these kings and their lands Joshua conquered in just one campaign because the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal. When Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of this, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to the kings of Shimron and Akshaph, and to the northern kings who were in the mountains. In the Arabah south of Kinnereth, in the western foothills, and in Naphoth Dor on the west. So what is he saying? He sent out word to all these people, all the kings, and to the Canaanites, and to the Amorites, and the Hittites, the Perizzites, it says Perizzites, and the Jebusites, and to the Hivites. So he's sending word out to a whole bunch of people all across the land. Who sent out the word?
Joshua.
Jabin. Jabin heard that Joshua had done all of this conquering. And now that he's heard that all this has happened, now he's sending word out to everybody else. And they came, all these kings came with all their troops and a large number of horses and chariots. It was a huge army, as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They joined forces together and made camp at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. So they heard that Joshua had done what?
He conquered it all.
He conquered the huge region. Now, an even huger region is joining forces to stop Joshua and Israel. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid, because by this time tomorrow I will hand all of them." This time tomorrow? That's really quick. "I will hand all of them slain over to Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn their chariots." So Joshua and his whole army came against them suddenly at the waters of Merom and attacked them, and the Lord gave them into the hand of Israel. Israel defeated them and pursued them all the way to Greater Sidon, to Misrephoth Maim, and to the valley of Mizpah, until there were no survivors left. Yikes. So all of those kings who stood against Joshua and all of their armies are now what?
Dead.
They're defeated. Joshua did to them as the Lord had directed. At that time, Joshua turned back and then captured Hazor and put its king to the sword, because Hazor had been the head of all of these kingdoms. Joshua and Israel totally destroyed them, not sparing anyone, and he burned Hazor itself. I guess Hazor is also the name of the kingdom. Joshua took all these royal cities and their kings. He totally destroyed them, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. Yet Israel did not burn any of the cities that were built on their mounds, except Hazor, which Joshua burned. The Israelites carried off the plunder and the livestock, but all of the people they put to the sword, not sparing anyone. Yikes. As the Lord,
including women and children.
I think so, and that's sad, but
I mean, they've all been worshiping idols.
Well, we don't destroy people just because they worship idols, but this is a picture of what the Lord does to our enemies. And today, our enemies are not people, because the Lord said we do not war against flesh and blood, but we war against the powers of darkness. And Jesus came to bring, he came by the way of submission and by way of peace. That's how he defeated death, and he did not use violence, and that's how we fight now. But it is a picture that all of our enemies are completely destroyed, which is still a mixed emotion. Yea, the enemies are defeated. Sad that some women and children passed away. As the Lord commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua obeyed, and he did it. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. So Joshua took the entire land, just as the Lord had directed. Just as the Lord had directed Moses, and he gave the land as an inheritance to Israel according to their tribal divisions. I'm going to read this last little bit, and then we're going to stop there. These ancient cities, defeated by Joshua and the Israelites, have been forgotten by history. Yet, for the Israelites, each name listed represented a risk, a loss, a hardship, and a struggle. God's promise to Abraham, hundreds of years before Joshua, was coming to pass. A new nation was being formed. We need a new nation formed in the United States. We need a new nation with a tender heart towards the Lord. Much of the promised land was theirs. Much still remained to be taken. In the meantime, their leader had some final words of encouragement. So it looks like Joshua was about to pass away. He had completed the task that had been given to him, and it was time for him to go on to be with the Lord, and the remaining task would go to the next generation. Remember that Joshua and Caleb were the last of the old generation. They were the only two from the old generation that had entered the promised land. And they stayed there, and they defeated these huge kingdoms and cities and peoples.
By themselves?
With God, but all the Israelites helped as well, under God's direction. But he was the leader. But now it was time for Joshua to go be with the Lord. And it would be up to this next generation who had heard the stories. They were children and also babies, and some of them had not been born when God had pulled them out of Egypt, because that had been probably 45 years before at this point. They had heard the stories. Some of them had witnessed it as children. Now they had been led by Joshua. They had seen the miracles of the Jordan being separated. They had seen the miracle of Jericho falling, the miracle of the sun standing still, which was huge.
I wonder.
And hold on. And now it would be time for them to walk in the power of the Lord to defeat the rest of the land and to drive out the rest of the enemies. Yes.
I wonder if we would actually be a whole day back if that hadn't happened, if that changed time.
That is a good question. Did it change time? Maybe so, because then we might be a day behind. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to stop there. We'll pick up on page 100 next time.